Can you retire early if you don't start until 40? What if you're broke and you start at 40? I'll give an example at the end of somebody who actually did that, if you're new to my channel. People who have been on my channel have heard this example a few times, but if you're 40 and broke, can you retire early? The first thing I want to do is define a couple of things. The first definition is retired. Most people's opinion, not too many people's opinion who are on YouTube University educating themselves about retiring early, but most people, like 90+% of people think of retired, they think it means you get pushed out of work because you're too old to do it effectively anymore. They think it's when you go sit on a beach because you don't have the energy to do anything else. Retired is very different than retired early. Retired would suck if you're old and have no energy. You have a bucket list of things to do, but you can't. You physically can't do those things. And the second thing to define would be, what does retire early mean? Right? If you were planning on working until 80 and you retire at 75, to you that was early. What is early to you? To me, I use what most people think of when they think of retiring. I call them the retirement roadblocks. The things that actually make retirement suck, that tie it to an age instead of a number. And not an actual number that you've invested, but a number that you have coming in every month that you don't have to sell your life for 1 hour at a time to have it still come in. This retired early to me is if you can work around these roadblocks. The first one, 59 and a half. I probably didn't even have to say more for you to understand that 59 and a half is when you get access to your own money that you locked willingly behind a paywall. It wasn't free money. When you contributed for the match, that's not free money. That's your money. Your boss, your company, lowered your hourly compensation by an amount so that they would have money left over to contribute a match for you. So there's actually people out there that are dumb enough to have access to a match and don't take it. So they willingly give up some of their own hourly income. 59 and a half. I guess if you retire on retirement accounts, that is a little earlier than what people think of as normal retirement age, where they keep trying to increase full retirement age. That's why they had the riots in France not too long ago. The next roadblock that we can put in our way is 62. Again, I almost don't have to say anything for you to realize 62 is when you have access to Social Security. But have you been paying attention to the rules? At 62, you only have access to 70% of what you would be getting if you waited. So delaying that can make you get more money. At 62, if you do tap into your Social Security, if it's there for you when you get there, they have other rules. You can only make so much money. When I worked at the CDL school, we had a lot of older instructors who were taking their Social Security, and they would come into management and say, I can only work this much time this year because if I make more money than X amount, I thought I'd lose my Social Security. Imagine having the amount of work that you can do limited by the money that you've been contributing to your entire working life and only getting 70% of it. Now, if you wait till 63 and 64, you might get a little bit more of your Social Security, but it is also limited by the amount of money that you can make every year. So if you wait till 65, that last roadblock, which is not because of Social Security, but 65 is the biggest roadblock that most people use to justify working longer than you should and working to the point where when you finally do get to retire, you don't have the energy to enjoy it or the health to enjoy it. At 65, yes, you can now make, oh, there's a seal. You can now make any amount of money that you want, and it doesn't cost you your Social Security. At 65, you get access to Medicaid, Medicare. Medicaid is when you're disability before that. Medicare. You get health care. And everybody, how many times have I heard, I'm going to wait till I get Medicare to retire? I have some friends, a couple who retired very close to 65. And when he hit 65, he realized his Medicare cost more than the health insurance that he was paying for being retired before 65. Don't let healthcare be the handcuffs. Your boss is not providing you with healthcare. They're providing you with healthcare premiums for your insurance. Now you can have an asset pay for your healthcare and retire early. So what if you do want to retire early and you don't want these roadblocks to be the reason why you end up working longer than you should? You've decided that 59 and a half isn't going to be the trap. 62 is not going to be the trap. 65 is not going to be the trap. So you've made healthcare not matter by having your own insurance. You've made Social Security not matter by having your own money. You've made your retirement accounts not matter because you locked them behind a paywall and had to wait till 59 and a half. If you're 40 and broke, you have a few options. Most people in the financial independent retire early community talk about investing in stocks. It seems to be the most invested in asset class, generally because of compound interest. And they've done studies on retirement accounts. The best performing retirement accounts belong to people who died. The second best performing retirement accounts and investing accounts belong to people who forgot they had them. And the third best investing accounts was managed by a cat named Orlando. So invest, put the money in there, and don't touch it. Pretend you're dead. Pretend you forgot about it. Don't touch it. At 40, if you're broke, do you have the decades for your compound interest to kick in? 30, 40 years. Graham Stephan, Meet Kevin, Minority Mindset, they've all done videos on if you invest between 20 and 25 and then you never touch the money again, you have more money at 60 than if you invested a significant amount of money in your 40s. Do you make enough money at 40 to save and invest the difference between what you make and what you spend for it to actually have an impact on your future? If you're 40 and broke, maybe that's not the case. So I would set stocks to the side. The best performing asset of the last decade has been Bitcoin. Do you have a crystal ball and do you know what's going to be the best performing asset of the next 10 years? Because if you did, you would have been investing in Bitcoin this entire time. I still don't own any. Could be your asset class. What if your goal is to have a pension, right? You work somewhere for at least 20 years. So if you start at 40, you're now 60. You've hit 59 and a half, so you have retirement accounts. You're not quite to Social Security, but you could have a pension. Is 60 early retirement? I took a cruise just before turning 50, and let me tell you, when you walk up down the stairs of Santorini, or when you go on a Zodiac in Alaska to tour the fjords, and you watch the 60 and 70-year-olds on the ship because they don't have the health to get off and enjoy things, you think, maybe 60 is not early enough for me. At least that was my experience. Then with pensions, what if your city files bankruptcy? What if your company goes under? What if you're like my friend's husband? Now, the friend worked at the company that I worked at, and her husband was in the Air Force for 17 years. At the 17-year mark, welcome to not being able to re-enlist. Imagine putting in 17 years of service towards the country and being told 3 years shy of your retirement age. Ciao. If you start at 40 because you're broke and you decide, I'm going to work at this place with a pension, there is a lot of risk from putting all of your eggs in that one basket that you don't have control over. Maybe that's not the way. So how did I do it? How did my example happen? And how could you do this if you start at 40 and you're broke? First, you're going to have patience. Second, you're going to have to actually work. Yeah, you're going to put in a decade of work, right? I'm not going to tell you that you can get rich quick and retire in 3 years. I'm going to tell you that you can get rich quick as long as you understand that 10 years is quick. You start working a job at 40. You spend less than you make. I was making $17 an hour at 40, starting to teach people how to drive trucks at a CDL school after getting laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash. I saved for 2 years. I worked on my credit score. I bought a duplex instead of a house. A lot of people want to go get their forever home first and then think, I'll invest after I do that because a grown-up owns a house. No, I bought a duplex. I lived in one side and I rented out the other. A couple of years later, so you're 2 years to get the first real estate that you are going to get rental income on. This can be a house with an ADU. If you're absolutely crazy, it can be a house and you have roommates. That's not my choice. I had 3 young kids. I was a single parent. So I did the duplex, rent out the other side, separate fenced yards, garages in the middle, so we didn't even have shared living wall space. 2 years later, I bought another duplex. So 4 years into a 10-year journey, you have to buy 2 things. This isn't go out and do close on 30 deals in a month or do wholesaling or flipping or the creative BRRRR strategy. I just bought places from the MLS with conventional loans, owner-occupied loans. You can do 5% down on a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. You can use a VA loan on up to a fourplex. I still haven't even used mine. At the 4-year mark, you get that second duplex. 2 years to do one thing. Yeah, it's boring. It's slow. It's not sexy. But now you have a lower cost of living because you're living in the duplex. You have rental income from 3 rentals. You're continuing to work and climb the corporate ladder and work overtime and do a side hustle. I played World of Warcraft and sold things online to make more money. No vacations, drove old cars, lived frugally. So there's the 5 years of suck that we're all going to have. I didn't have a high income, so stocks wasn't the route. I didn't have the crystal ball, so crypto wasn't the route. Slow and boring. A year and a half later, I bought another property. The first 5 years are going to go really slow, probably one property every other year. But if you're house hacking and you've reduced your living expenses and you say, oh, I can't house hack. Well, you're 40 and broke. It's time to make some life changes. Now, a year and a half, and let's not even say it speeds up as much as mine did, because I went to paying off a property and buying a property every year to where when I retired after a decade of investing, I had 8 properties with 18 rental units because I had a fourplex and a triplex and duplexes. But if you do this for 10 years and you just get one property every 2 years and you buy a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, 1 or 2 of them you house hack so you get that really low owner-occupied down payment with the best interest rate. At 10 years, because of how math works, you have somewhere between 10 and 20 rental units. But that's not the magic. You've had one of those rentals for 8 years. You've had that first duplex for 8 years. Chance to increase rents, chance to refinance to a better rate, chance to raise your deductible now that you have more money so that your insurance premium is less, chance to maybe add a den, turn a den into a bedroom by adding a closet. You've had tenant turnover. You've had another property, that second one that you got at 4 years, for 6 years now. 6 years of rent increases, value add opportunity. At 10 years, you have the compounding effect of multiple rental units with multiple years of opportunity to increase the income. Now, maybe you retire at 50. Maybe you're like me and you love the job you had and you were doing a litmus test of let me continue to test and live on my rental income and not touch anything from my W-2. And I worked 2 more years and retired at 52. I've been retired for 3 years now, as of July 2025. It's been 3 years. 3 years where I'm trying to figure out how to spend the cash flow. Where I went from $89,000 in bad debt I didn't know about until the divorce, making $17 an hour at a CDL school, to financially free with cash flow. And here's the broken down numbers. Rents are about $35,000 a month, a little more. My mortgages are a little more than $9,000 a month, so I pay $9,000 a month. Everybody's like, I don't want debt. I love my debt. I wish I had more. I'm actually probably going to get more. I set aside $5,150 a month for future repairs and expenses. It's an inside cop joke. That leaves me with about $21,000 a month to live on. I live for free in one of my duplexes. I get paid to live there. I drive paid off vehicles. I don't travel to expensive countries. I spend months in Thailand, Colombia, Portugal, places where my money goes a lot farther, and I chase the good scuba and the good weather. And it feels like I'm trying to drag some of you kicking and screaming to this world that can be for you if you'll put in the decade. If you're 40 and broke, there is a path to retiring early. It isn't pretty, it isn't sexy, it's hella boring. But boring is damn sexy when it gives you all of your time back. If you want your questions answered during a live stream every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a video where I answer all of the questions that come in, even the rude ones. This was a video on my phone where I will look at the chat after and I will answer questions in the chat. Have a day full of amazing. Get out there and enjoy it.